Hello everyone, this is your Figure Break, and today on your break I'll be reviewing the 1/8 scale Yamato figure by Max Factory. So sit back, relax, and enjoy your break. So I am really excited to open up this figure. When I started figure collecting, which was actually a year ago? Yeah, a year ago. I really wanted this figure. This figure, I saw it on my figure collection, and I instantly went, I want that. Now I did get this used, so that's why you kind of see like the damaged corners and whatnot on the box. So hopefully the figure's okay. I did check to see if everything was in there, but everything seems to be in order. Box. It's pretty fun. It's a solid box. There's no windows or anything like that. But there's some nice design, like the gold leafing that goes around the box here. Sakura petals is very permanent of Yamato. It's kind of like inlaid. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let's see if I can. You can kind of see it, but there's some like Japanese kind of indented layering like right here. And then, of course, the sticker of authenticity in the corner, right there. And then on the top is, you know, the company, Max Factory, wonderful, you know, selection, you know, hobby search, you know, wonderful collection, a Kantai collection logo, and then a silhouette of Yamato. I'm not sure what that says, because I can't read Japanese, so. And then actually on the back here, there's another kind of inlaying of it, of the Yamato silhouette that you saw on the top, the solid one. It's just an inlaying right here. So, yeah. Open it up. What's really weird is that it opens up like so. She's upside down. Interesting reveal. Alright, okay. So, I didn't realize that when I was going to open it, that I was going to be upside down. Hopefully you don't see too many defects on this one. Usually people who collect figures and whatnot usually take care of their figures. So. Okay, so that was Yamato. This is, it looks like her gun stuff. So it comes in its own little plastic thing, separate thing. And then it looks like, oh wow, that's pretty. Okay, this is the base, and that's really well done. Instructions! Yay! Instructions! Yeah, look at that. You know, it's really hard to tell from the camera, the color of it, but it's a nice, like, sky. Actually, you can tell that it's like this kind of blue, but it's like slightly transparent. It's really, really nice. Okay, let's get you on the action here. Let's get this in the frame. Okay. Typical little covering part. This box has been sitting in the corner of my room for like ever, and I've been wanting to open it ever since. Okay. Now there is another. There's supposed to be another little part that covers up her legs. I hope that got sent with it. There's only one flaw with this kind of assembly, and that is there is so many chances to scrape up the figure. Holy cow. Aha! I found the blue piece! I found it! Good. I thought I didn't have it. Alright, good. It's a very non-straight umbrella. For sure. So. I hate it when I do that. Always gives me a heart attack every single time. I always want to, like, right when I drop something, it's just like, like this brief heart attack just surges through your body. I could very easily see people breaking There we go. One assembled umbrella. Alright, so here she is, all assembled. And she looks amazing. I am so glad that I got her. There isn't any flaws. There isn't. I haven't found anyone I was assembling her or anything like that. There wasn't any nicks or dings or molding errors. Everything is perfectly molded, which is absolutely, I think, important for a figure like this, especially with all these hard lines on these figure. If one of them was just ever so slightly off angle, it would look weird to me. But that's what's really nice about this figure, is that they made sure that not one part stood out from the other. They made sure that it was all one big giant unit, because there you have of course her, and then you have the ship, and they made sure that all that was one piece and not one was separate from the other. That's what I was most afraid of with this figure. There's two parts to this figure. There is, of course, her, and then the ship. Now, in terms of her herself, she looks amazing. Again, there's no flaws that I've seen. I wish, though, there could have been a little bit more detail with her hair. The sculpting of the hair is amazing. But in terms of like highlights and shades, not so much. And speaking of sculpting, the hair that's on the water looks absolutely amazing. It's perfect. It flows just ever so nicely. The little water part that covers her knees, the hair actually kind of keeps it down and makes sure it doesn't pop up and move around or anything like that. So I'm really, really glad of how they actually sculpted it, because it serves both a practical use and then an actual aesthetic use too at the same time. So that's really, really nice. Other things to point out for her is her hairband. Her hairband, the hair petals on it, they're not too detailed. I kind of wish they were a little bit more sculpted detailed, because a lot of this figure is very detail sculpted, but a lot of parts aren't, unfortunately, and that's one of them. The other part that could have been more detailed in terms of sculpting is, I feel like, with the shirt, there could have been a little bit more details with the shirt, I think, with sculpting. Same thing also with paint. That's the one thing that the whole thing is lacking, is a little bit of painting detail. But at the same time, I could see why they didn't, because if they made her paint job too detailed, it would look like a separate figure from the ship. So I'm really glad that they actually did and then didn't at the same time. So they wanted to make sure that nothing was taking away from another. So the skirt looks really, really nicely sculpted. There is that good combination of like sculpt and then shading to it. And that's kind of like one of the hardest things to do about most skirts on like these figures, is like the sculpt and the shading with it at the same time. The other thing too that I want to point out is the missiles. The missiles are really, really nicely detailed. You can tell that there's like the little painted bands on them are actually slightly recessed. They're not just, one solid like, tube looking thing. Also, the bands that are actually around her legs, it looks like they're actually like really attached on her legs, because you can see the leg like flesh kind of going underneath, as it were. Also the stocking is really, really nice and crisp. I don't see any flaws with them whatsoever. I don't see any flaws on either of the missiles. It looks really, really nice. Now, as for the ship parts, the ship looks amazing. I don't see too much paint. Again, no paint job detail, but that's absolutely fine, because we didn't want one thing to be more prominent than the other. Again, I can't iterate that enough, that I really wanted to make sure, I really was hoping that it would look like one piece. Now, there's some parts of the ship that are posable. For example, these pose this way, like this. They also pose up and down like this. That goes for both sides. The front cannons, these little parts, they're posable. You can turn them however you like. These little ones on the bottom here, they turn. Let's see here if I can turn one of them. See, they turn. And the only one that I'm confused about of why they made it posable was the back one. See, it is, see, posable, but it's fixated in the base. What would be the point? I guess it's the reason why they do that is because if you didn't have the water base, you could still pose it in the back, but it's behind her, so you're not going to see it. That was the really confusing part for me. I didn't get that at all. The base looks pretty good. the base, it's not too distracting. Usually I was always afraid with these kind of like big bases is that they'd really distract you from other parts of the figure, but this one, it's perfect. The only thing that's really, actually there is something actually really distracting. This little part right here that covers the front part with her legs, they tried to make it look like it was a water ripple where the piece went. You can kind of tell that it's not. But other than that, it's an amazing base. I kind of wish that the flower petals were part of the base. If they were part of the base, it would look a lot better. And also, it would be less of a nightmare probably to dust later on, because I'm looking at this thing going, oh my gosh, this is going to be a nightmare to dust, especially with all the flower petals on it. So that's the only thing that I'm really, really nervous about. In terms of a rating for the figure, I would give it an 8.5. It's a really, really nicely done figure. The sculpting is A game. A+. Really, really good sculpting, especially for a figure like this that has the straight lines. Really, really important that the sculpting was on point. That's for sure. However, the painting could have been a little bit more detailed for this. That's for sure. Not that it's lacking, but it could have been a little bit better, especially on Yamato herself. Not so much the ship, but definitely on Yamato could have been a little bit better with the paint job. Other than that, though, really, really good figure. I am so glad I now have this figure in my collection. Well, I hope you enjoyed my review of the Yamato 1/8 scale by Max Factory, and I hope you enjoyed your figure break. I'll see you in the next video.